Hello out there. So my name's Michael. Um, I am a grateful, saved believer in Jesus Christ, and it hasn't always been that way. It hasn't always been that way. Um, I've been drawn for the last few years to do more, to reach out to people and to help. And I feel like the world is getting nothing but more confusing. It's harder every day to live a life without fear. And even as a Christian, I struggle with this sometimes. And that's my battle. And so it's not my battle. He's helping me. But I decided to start making videos today to kind of share my story. So see where it goes from there. So, as a kid growing up, we didn't go to church as a family. God was brought up. Sometimes I remember my mom telling me about Jesus when I was little, but it's just not something that was. We just weren't churchgoers or anything like that. But I do believe that my parents believed. But anyway, um, as years went by, I lived a pretty normal childhood. I got into drugs and alcohol. I became, in high school, I got into pain pills, and the first time I ever took them, it was just on. I felt like there was a hole inside of me, and it filled that hole, and just the obsession for more, and the obsession to just keep using them was intense. And at the time, I didn't come from any kind of my family didn't use drugs. My parents drank, but there was no like drug use. So as I started to take them a lot and get them from friends at school, I was an athlete in high school, and I could just get them for free, basically. And I thought it was way cool. So there I was. I'd just be eating them every single day. And it originally started out with an injury that I got, and the doctor he prescribed me some Vicodin, and they sat in the cupboard for a couple years. And there was a guy at school, older kid, told me, "Hey, take a few of those, and you're gonna feel real good." And I did, and I liked them. And then I found other kids that had them, and it was a thing. So, you know, after high school, I didn't really know how to get the pain pills anymore. So I hadn't been introduced to the drug world. So I went out and I sought after them and found people that had them, and I had no experience in that kind of life at all. But I quickly learned, and that took me down a road of in and out of jail. I've been arrested 36 times, mainly for probation violations. But um, as far as right after high school, I didn't even know what addiction was. I didn't know what was happening to my body. I didn't know what, what was happening. The ways that I would feel when I didn't have them. I would commit crimes to get them. Um, it was terrible. I robbed my parents blind. Took anything that I could that was worth anything, and I sold it. And I would always tell myself, like, hey, I'm gonna buy this back from the pawn shop. I'm gonna buy it back. I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna you know replace these things. But I never did. I never could. And it just got worse and worse and worse, and until I had nobody. I had nobody in my life. I lived a life of homelessness for years, many, many, many years. There were times when relatives would let me stay with them for periods of time, and I would burn them or do something. And I would get kicked out. And finally I learned that I went to rehab actually at the age of 25, and that's the first place that I ever learned that what was kind of going on with me. And at the time, I'd only done pain pills and stuff like that. And, it was a bigger town, bigger city. People that were in there for heroin. And I knew that was a very powerful opiate. And so, always in the back of my mind, I kind of wanted to try it out. At the same time in there, I learned for the first time ever that I could give what I couldn't control to God. And that was my first step in a relationship with Him in any way, was that I could give these things that are bigger than me to Him, and He would take them, and He would give me a sense of peace, Still hadn't gotten into the Bible or anything like that, but I had started praying, and I also realized that earlier in my life, and even after this, but earlier in my life, I would yell at God, I would scream at God, I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I just thought, I was screaming out to, just yelling, but to look back on it, I realized that in a way they kind of were prayers, I was talking to Him. And I thought that I was cursed to walk alone, to just be alone forever, and just constantly wander with no home, no place to be, no place to go, just wander. And so after the rehab, I was in there. I kind of rebuilt a relationship with my mom, and life was going good. But about 2 months in, after rehab, I still had in the back of my head that heroin. And one night I went and drank, and I remember this like crazy mental battle. Like I buy these beers, and like I'm behind this store, and I set them down in front of me, and I just like fight with myself for like who knows how long. It was at least an hour, but inevitably I lost that battle and I drank. And now I know that like I had already basically drank before I even drank. That battle was lost. Like the bottle's not going to get tired. The bottle doesn't get tired. So yeah, I drank, and it was right after that I took all the little bit of money I had saved up. I took my mountain bike. Didn't have my driver's license. Took my mountain bike and rode downtown and got ripped off a few times and finally got some heroin, And the first time I ever did heroin, I was smoking it. And the guy who had sold it to me behind me, I was talking to him, but I wasn't facing him. I was talking to him facing a river. And after a while I realized he wasn't responding back to me. And I turn around and he's just blue. He's got a needle hanging out of his arm. The shot's not all the way, not even all the way in. And he's done. And in rehab, I had learned how to, how to handle these situations the best I could. I slapped him, nothing. Splashed water in his face, and he came to. And had a person call an ambulance, and I took off. I took all the drugs he had on him, and I took off. And for me, it led to another 7 years out there, shooting up heroin every single day. I started smoking it at first, and I started shooting it, and it was the worst addiction of my life. I really thought that there was no way to ever get those claws that were in my heart, in my soul. I mean, they were sunk in me. That there was no way to remove those. And it was just a dark time. And as I was out there, I started to have this like change where like I didn't want to do bad things to get drugs. I didn't have the money, but I didn't want to rob anybody anymore. I didn't want to steal from people, and these were just small changes that started. So, I found different ways to get the drugs, and even after a while, those started to not feel right. I would justify robbing drug dealers. I would justify collecting. People that owed money to other people, I'd be the guy that went in and got it. And And at that time, I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care. I kind of hoped that I would die. I hoped that I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to like kill myself. And I wasn't just gonna let somebody just kill me easily. But it was kind of always hoping someone could do it. You know. Also, before every shot of drugs I did, I would tell myself for better or for worse. And to me, that was like I didn't know if it was going to be too much or not. I didn't know. It was for better or for worse. And I got mixed up with some real bad people. Real bad. And I found myself fighting against some people that were more than I could deal with, you know. And one night after a particular fight where I held my own, but I got my ribs broken, and they were broken bad. And I knew that I couldn't take any more beatings like that. Well, I was just hurt as bad as I was. I couldn't do it again. And it just kind of came to me like that in rehab I'd given it to God, you know? I'd given it to him and he could take these things that I couldn't control. And for the first time in a long time I said a prayer. And it was simply, Father, I can't take another one of those. And he put into my heart, not in words, but in my heart, he said, if you don't go looking for it, you have nothing to worry about. And so I didn't go looking for it, and these people would come after me. They'd come after me, and they'd come hard. I mean, they'd come, weapons, whatever, you know? And God always saw me through. Always. I mean, I was able to easily fight off these terrible situations, get out of them, and he would always protect me.